Welcome back to another episode of Light Beer, Dark Money. I'm Sean Noble.
And I'm Chris Clements.
Habemus Papam.
That's a little bit different than Expecta Patronum or something like that.
We have a pope.
We have a pope. We called it.
Oh my gosh, Chris, you
it.
called it. You have been saying it's time for an American pope.
I didn't really call this one specifically, but
but
in the spirit of
I mean
the moment, I really believe that. I believe that in my heart, and I was praying about it. And truthfully, I just felt like this was the moment.
Well, it's funny because so it turns out we both had a win here.
Yeah.
Because 10 minutes before he was announced, I looked over at Alyssa because we're watching it on TV.
Sure.
We're looking at the balcony, and I said, I really pray that the next pope picks Leo.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Because our 14-month-old son is Leo. He was named after a pope. And I mean, it was just astounding. I mean,
we are vertical, brother. We are something's happening. We're in tune with something because I obviously have a heart for Timothy Dolan. I've talked about on the show. Right. I follow him on Instagram. I think he would have been an amazing pick, but at the same time, having Robert Francis Prevost from Chicago,
a Cubs fan
from Chicago, went to Villanova.
When could you ever say that about a pope?
I mean, how great is that?
I mean, it
was the
is
Bishop of Peru.
Yeah, and he has spent most of his time in Latin America. He's been at the Vatican for a number of years lately, but. I mean, it is amazing. An American pope. I literally did not think it was possible in my life.
I know you didn't because you kept dismissing me for
the
last couple weeks. And I kept saying, this is the time. This is the moment. I just believe that after all these centuries, an American pope just makes perfect sense.
Well,
I don't know why I felt that. I just did. And I'm not proven right. God is proven right, hopefully, with this pope. You never know. This is for me just amazing. I mean, as a fairly new Catholic, the first time I'm going through the process of a conclave as a Catholic, I mean, it was just very emotional. Oh, look at you. That's awesome.
Watch it happen.
And named after your son.
Yeah.
It's like God divined it.
Yeah, something. Well, I'll tell you.
Listen, shout out to Ginny Clements, my mom, who is a devout Catholic, and to her friends and many of the folks who were very involved with the ladies. What is it? The ladies, the Knights and Ladies of the Holy Sepulchre.
Yeah,
who are very involved with this process as well.
Right.
So
I mean, this is
good stuff.
This is very, very interesting. Obviously, there's going to be plenty of discussion about what kind of pope he's going to be. Is he going to be more my guess is, based on what little I've researched about it in the last few minutes, is that he's going to be fairly traditionally Catholic in the sense of social justice, pro-immigration, things that aren't going to fit some of the political strains here in America. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But it is a remarkable thing to think about the fact that we have a pope from America where, there are obviously lots of Catholics in the United States.
Well, just a few.
But when you look at it compared to other parts of the country or the world where we've had popes, especially Europe, but Latin America, I mean, this is momentous.
It is. It's momentous. It's wonderful for the faith. If he is a prognosticator, purveyor, preacher of biblical truth, then those outside of the Catholic faith will embrace that as well.
Yeah.
Those who consider themselves Protestant, conservative Protestants, or evangelical conservatives like myself, that is all we can pray for.
Yeah.
That biblical truth would be followed, that Jesus would be uplifted, that his teachings, in the strictest sense, would be taught, that the gospel would be at the forefront and that the world and the as we said in our show yesterday, the provisions of the world and expectations of the world will be tossed aside.
Yeah.
In the spirit of the teachings of Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you are interested in Catholicism, if you're Catholic, one of the people I would highly recommend you follow on Twitter is a guy named Joshua Charles. Joshua T. Charles is his handle, at Joshua T. Charles. He's a convert. A few years before I was. He's a former White House speechwriter and now an author about going his journey is from Protestantism to Catholicism, but boy, he's deep into this. This is what he does.
Yeah,
he's just got great commentary in every way, and he's not crazy political about this stuff, which is nice.
Okay,
so. So yeah, we have a pope. It's
no, it's great.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating. And I just can't believe I was flabbergasted when it was Pope Leo XIV. I was like, whoa, this is amazing.
It's like they were talking to you, Sean. It's like you were dialed in some way.
Alyssa was like, well, the Vatican was just waiting for you to become Catholic so you could give them direction. Or they could give you everything you want.
On the flip side as well, if you want to get just an evangelical perspective on Catholicism and just in terms of what everything means, if you're not Catholic, Al Mohler from the Southern Baptist Seminary has a great podcast called The Briefing. I listen to it every morning. He had a whole thing this morning about kind of educating, because he knows, he's been around this so long, just educating evangelicals or Protestants, like what is going on, like what is actually happening.
Yeah.
And what does it mean? And why are these ceremonies important? Mm-hmm. And regardless of who is selected, what is our hope and prayers for that person?
Right.
And he's tremendous. I listen to him every morning.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Well, so what's next, do you think? You think he comes to America, goes to a Cubs game?
Yeah. I don't know if he'll go to a Cubs game.
Does a big thing at Soldier Field?
I mean, I think there's
goes to Nashville?
A stronger chance that he comes to the United States,
First?
I don't know about first, but
I think he should come first.
I don't know if he'll come here first, but I could definitely see him doing a South American swing and then coming up to North America.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the tradition is. We had I guess Benedict came. Did Francis come to the United States ever?
Yes. Yeah, he did.
It was?
Yeah, he came to Washington, didn't he?
Well, who was it Francis that came to Washington?
Yeah, okay. He went to Washington. That was like a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was huge.
Yeah,
deal.
That was a big deal.
And so I think the chances of the Pope coming to visit America are very, very high.
Well, and he's young. He was born in 1955.
Yeah,
I mean, he's got some runway.
Yeah,
so he's going to be around for some time.
He's 69, so he's going to be there for a while. Speaking of 1955.
Yeah.
So that was the year he was born, and this is where, every now and then something happens, and Alyssa's like, and this is why we're in a sim. So I'm watching the coverage on TV before I came over here, and in the crowd, I see a dude wearing a Brooklyn Dodgers hat.
Oh, really?
The Brooklyn Dodgers won the World Series in 1955.
Well, and then shortly thereafter, they left.
But
what are the odds?
What are the odds?
Yeah, what are the odds?
You see a Brooklyn Dodgers hat at St. Peter's Square when the new Pope is revealed, who is an American, born in 1955.
Did he have a Cubs hat?
And no, he didn't have a Cubs hat. And well, he's a Cubs fan.
Listen,
we
have a Pope that is a baseball fan.
Yeah, and he picks,
I don't care what team he likes.
He picks Leo as his name, and Leo Durocher was a longtime player manager for the Dodgers, and the Cardinals, and a number of teams.
Yeah, I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Yeah,
where did you come up with that?
I just just when I was thinking Brooklyn Dodgers 1955, Pope Leo the 14th, born in 1955. This is so, Alyssa, you might be right. This might be a
and
sim.
the Dodgers are in town this week.
Right.
Who would think? Playing the Diamondbacks. I'm going on Saturday. Are you going?
Yeah, I'm going on Saturday.
I'm taking Campbell. We're going on Saturday.
Great. I'm going on Saturday as well.
I can't wait.
My first game this year.
It is mine as well. What are the odds?
What are the odds?
But a lot of good things happening besides the Pope.
Yes, so the Pope is obviously
that's the big story of the
news.
day. But there was a bigger story that broke much earlier.
Well, earlier in the day, yeah.
And that was
a trade deal,
a big trade deal with Great Britain,
with the UK.
Yeah. So the first of many is what Trump is saying.
What do we know about it?
It's what people are saying. I mean, what people are saying is that it's pretty standard. I mean, what the Wall Street Journal has said is that this is something that's been in the works for better part of a decade, really, and that since Brexit and everything else. Okay. And so this is
the formalization of that process,
and this is the formalization of talks that have been happening for a very, very long time. and what's really interesting about it is, it's the first deal, and it continues to be separate from the EU. And then in the meantime, the EU comes out with some kind of release. I just saw it like a minute ago, saying that they're going to double down on their tariffs against America unless a trade deal happens quickly. Which I found interesting. Yeah. That means they're getting desperate.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, but the markets are up because of it.
There you go.
Actually over 1% as we're recording this.
There you go.
So it's a nice little bounce for those of us who are on fixed incomes.
That's right.
Every dollar counts.
Every dollar counts.
So, Trump Starmer announced U.S.-UK trade deal tariffs on some UK cars were lowered to 10%, while levies on steel will be eliminated. Trump said this was the first in a series of deals the administration is negotiating. This from the Wall Street Journal.
Cool. Well, it's the tariff issue continues to vex a lot of people, and I think that we just have to allow the time for this to kind of play itself out. And it is now playing itself out. The deals are being, done, being announced. There was the 90-day pause, which ends, middle or end of June?
Yeah. I mean, right before they're supposed to get this tax bill done. Yeah. Ironically enough.
Right. And, he could extend them longer. I mean, it's his call in order to get some of these others done. But the big one is, obviously, what do we do about China? And, that's going to continue to be a little bit of a game of chicken, I think, to some degree.
I read in the New York Post the other day that unrest is beginning to raise its head in China in a way that they haven't experienced in quite some time. And some factories are stopping because they just don't have the orders that were the majority of their business exports. Right. So at 145%, and 2/3 of your economy is based on exports to the United States.
Is that right? 2/3 of their economy is exports to the U.S.?
That's what I understand.
Wow.
That's what I understand.
That's problematic.
Yeah, it's exports. Maybe it's not 2/3 of their economy. It's 2/3 of the trade imbalance.
Of the trade imbalance.
Yeah, is their exports to us, and we only have a smidgen of imports into
that goes
China.
Back. Yeah.
And then if you do business in China, of course, you've got to hand over all your intellectual property. You've got to do all these. There's all these things that just are untenable in this environment.
They rip off our businesses, steal their IP, and all kinds.
It's all part of the deal.
Right.
So from that perspective, I agree with Trump. We can't continue like this.
Right.
We can't continue. This is not sustainable.
Yeah. So this will play itself out, and it'll be interesting to see. You think about so we've got the tariffs and the trade deals. We've got the one big beautiful bill, which is having some issues.
Keeps getting bigger.
I mean, you've got it includes the tax cut, includes spending cuts. There's
and now you've got Republicans like Chip Roy of Texas and other Republicans. It was reported again in the Wall Street Journal yesterday. Some Republicans in these high tax states were like, "Listen, we're not gonna vote for anything unless we get these."
Hey, Republicans out of New York and California,
and elsewhere said, "We're not gonna vote for anything unless it gets fixed. We have to get this fixed."
And that's expensive.
Yeah, that is very expensive. Because that actually was a boon to the Treasury.
Right.
And why? And it brings up another very great debate. And why should states with low taxes subsidize states with high taxes?
Right.
And we shouldn't. Just lower your taxes.
Yeah.
Exactly. California has the highest income tax in America, 13%. Lower your taxes.
Lower the taxes. Yeah.
Lower it to 7% or whatever it is. But the reason why over 1 million people have fled California isn't just the political environment; it's the economic environment.
Right.
And businesses continue to move to Texas and Arizona and just across Florida, Nevada,
all over the place.
Yeah, everywhere. So it's a bigger issue, and it'll be interesting to see if Speaker Johnson can really carve together a coalition to put this over the finish line.
Yeah.
My sense is that the Treasury Secretary and Trump will make a trip to Capitol Hill and break some kneecaps, and they'll get it done.
I do believe they'll get it done. I do believe it'll be painful. I do believe there's going to be some feelings hurt, and there's going to be some inner family challenges, so to speak.
And we talked about it a couple weeks ago, and this is the difference between Republicans and Democrats. With Democrats, this thing would have been done like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
it would have been done.
They just line them up.
They just line them up, and they tell the ones who aren't in line, you're going to get shot.
Yeah, right.
You either line up or you're going to go in this line, and you're going to get shot,
and you're gone,
and you're done, and it's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, the Democrats are definitely more disciplined than the Republicans, and that's either a good thing or a bad thing depending on how you look at it. I kind of view it as a bad thing because it means that there's a lot of Democrats who are abandoning principle because they're sticking with the party line.
Yeah, that's true. And for Republicans, we've always been about principle.
At least I hope most of us.
Most of us. But when it comes to tax policy, I mean the principle should be lower is better.
Taxes, right?
Lower is better.
Exactly.
Chip Roy sent a letter to the speaker, basically outlining a bunch of immigration issues that he hopes will be in the big, bad, beautiful bill.
He wants immigration stuff in there.
Yeah, he wants immigration stuff in there. He wants to be. What was it?
What kind of stuff can you put? I mean, because reconciliation, is so I guess it would be
in terms of the expanded
funding.
Yeah, in terms of the expanded funding for Homeland Security and the things that they want, it has to do with greater enforcement on the border, but also how we're dealing with some of these judges. So none of it that I saw was unreasonable.
Right.
So see if it gets accepted. But all these blue state Republicans want to hold the line on state taxes.
Yeah, which I think is going to be a challenge.
That's going to be a real challenge for them because there are a handful of people where the rest of the country is not with them.
Yeah.
The rest of the caucus, I would imagine, is not with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have clearly more Republicans from red states than blue states. So, what else has happened? You said there was another big thing. I'm just escaping my brain.
Oh, new Surgeon General.
Oh, that's right. Yes. So Casey Means has been nominated.
The Means kids.
Yeah. Callie
and Casey. Brother and sister.
Right. They've been active in the MAHA.
They have been incredibly active.
And so she's been nominated as Surgeon General. It's interesting because I'm going to have to dig into this a little bit, but there is definitely a lot of support coming out for that. But I've noticed there's some bitter people as well.
Some blowback.
Yeah, from people who claim to be MAHA. So I don't know.
I don't know. This is from The Spectator. Dr. Means is a close friend and ally of Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and gave a series of extraordinary interviews during the campaign, most notably with Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson, where she talked about the chronic disease epidemic in America, particularly amongst children. Mm-hmm. So I saw a lot of things on social media yesterday, just positive about her and her approach to this growing question as to, is our food killing us?
Right.
And is it killing our kids? And why are all these chronic diseases at epidemic levels where they didn't exist for many, many years?
Right.
So she's young. She's 37, graduated from Stanford University School of Medicine, but dropped out of surgical residency in Oregon 7 years ago to establish a Portland practice in functional medicine. Her medical license has been inactive since 2024. In other words, the new Surgeon General have confirmed won't be an actual practicing medical doctor. She does run a company that sells glucose monitors. Well, and she had a big book out this year.
Yeah,
as well,
and I mean, look,
called Good Energy.
It doesn't bother me that she's not a practicing physician. I mean,
no, we've had others that haven't been.
And if you're running a practice of functional medicine, then you are definitely in the vein of MAHA, because you're saying, look, we're not just going to rely on prescriptions for everything.
Well, yeah, and a lot of doctors, quite frankly, have been bought off by pharma.
Yeah.
For years.
Yeah.
Why did we have an opioid epidemic in this country? It's because doctors were overprescribing, not following up with their patients. They were getting paid off by pharma. No doubt about it. It is absolutely correct.
It goes even beyond that, because it is the situation is, if you're a doctor and a patient comes to you and you don't offer a prescription to treat something that might, be a treatment for that condition, they can sue for negligence for not giving them that option. When the doctor might think, drugs just aren't really the answer here. We need to do other things.
Well, so it just depends.
There's this perverse reverse incentive.
Yeah, and it depends on the philosophy of the patient as well. I mean, if you already have a patient on so many different narcotics, they believe another narcotic is just going to help them that much more, and you're treating symptoms and not causes. That's essentially where medicine has gone over the last several decades.
Yeah.
We're just going to treat symptoms.
Right.
We're not going to worry about.
We're not going
causes.
to the core. Yeah.
We really don't care about that. We're it could be now that what they're finding is the food that you're eating is largely a cause of how you're feeling.
Right.
So let's not look at what's actually ailing you. Let's just give you a Band-Aid, put it on it, and then addicting you to that Band-Aid for years.
Right.
Wow, what an amazing idea.
Amazing idea. Yeah. It's
I bet a lot of people could make a lot of money off of that.
Well, it will be very interesting to see how this plays out over the next few years, because if we're going to get serious about unwinding the stranglehold that Big Pharma has on the medical industry, we're going to be breaking some eggs. I mean, it's not going to be pretty.
Oh, completely.
There's going to be some really unhappy people.
Well, Big Pharma, big food.
Yeah.
I mean, Kellogg's has been poisoning our kids for years. Post, General Mills.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all encompassing. What exactly is in Trix cereal? Do we know? I
haven't eaten Trix in a while.
I don't give.
But I love myself a bowl of Fruity Pebbles.
Listen, I hear you. When I'm on vacation with the kids, sometimes what I will treat myself, because I try to avoid processed sugar completely. Although I am a slave to black licorice for whatever reason, which they're finding is not good for your heart. But okay,
is that right?
Yeah, if you eat a lot of it. But of course, if you eat a lot of things, it's not good for you. But I am still partial to either Kellogg's Raisin Bran with the sugary raisins or Frosted Flakes.
Yep. I hear you.
It's so bad for you. It's got to be. It's got to just be one big bowl of carcinogen.
Well, that, and it's is it an anti-libido? I mean, wasn't the whole?
Oh, really?
Well, the whole purpose of Kellogg's was to slow down, try to prevent young men from.
Oh yes, The Road to Wellville.
Yeah, I mean, there's like.
Did you ever see that movie?
No, but I probably should.
Read the book.
Okay.
So the author T.C. Boyle was the esteemed professor of creative writing at the University of Southern California.
Oh.
I met with him twice. I tried to get into his class. Submitted stuff. It just because I just wanted to take his class.
Right.
And there's a waiting list, like 2 semesters long.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he wrote this book, The Road to Wellville, which was all about the these health farms that were set up in the Midwest, specifically in Michigan, run by the Kellogg's. And they were called sanatoriums, and you would go and they would like feed you full of wheat cereal. That's how it all kind of came about, like colon blow to clean you out. And it's a comedy, and they made it into a movie and years ago.
I'm gonna have to watch that.
Yeah,
and read it. I'm gonna read that book.
And T.C. Boyle, his books are hilarious. So T. Corhesian Boyle, very very unique gentleman, very tall, lanky, kind of a hippie. You could always see him walking across campus, and everybody wanted to take his class.
Yeah, that's cool.
To learn how to write properly.
Well,
I got to meet with him a couple times. Like, cool. I just can't fit you in. I'm like, this stinks.
That's interesting because one of the pieces of advice I give to particularly kids in high school, but even kids who are in college, if they, what would you suggest I study? If I want to go into politics, but I always say you just got to learn to write well. So figure out, find out who is the toughest writing teacher in school and take whatever classes you can from that person.
It is amazing how many kids get to college and they don't know how to write.
It's amazing how many kids get out of college and don't know how to write.
Oh, no, absolutely.
I mean, I was stunned when I was chief of staff on the Hill.
You know what? Even we're lucky because we had some great mentors and teachers who kind of took our very verbose and poli-sci sort of centered writing, a lot of passive voice, and condensed it because you were on the Hill. I was working for the Leadership Institute.
Yeah.
Morton was like no passive voice.
Right.
I had to totally retrain my brain.
It's the way Shattuck was.
Yeah.
It was
because
white.
You can't write letters that way.
Right.
You can't write letters in all this flowery prose. You've got to condense it. And it was the hardest lesson I had to learn. It didn't mean that I couldn't, journal in that way or whatever else. But when you're in the business world,
when you're communicating,
short, concise, active voice. I have to coach my wife on that a little bit when she's doing these letters, and then I'll use Stephen Shattuck or Barry Goldberg. I go, if you them, they will yes you.
Yeah.
So use you and then let's get rid of some of the flowery language because people stop reading.
Yep.
Which I never understood before.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know who also was an amazing professor? I tried to get into his class too.
Who?
In terms of someone who's monumental, Dallas Willard.
Oh.
Before he passed away,
yeah.
was the dean of the philosophy department.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Huh. Wow.
One of the great theologians of our time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I went to one lecture with him and tried to get into the class, and I just sat in on the lecture, and it's full.
See, and
those two ones were full all the time.
You're a good example of someone who took their college experience seriously and curated your experience. So many kids just this is what I'm supposed to take. I'll just take this, and they don't think about who's the professor. What am I getting out of this? What's the reputation? What's the benefit I'm going to, people need to take more seriously.
Listen, I was lucky. I was at USC at a time where it was the center of the universe. There were a lot of people there who were articulate and they were writing and they were out there. I was a poli-sci major, but my best professor was a gentleman by the name of Nikolai Niemarki, and he was from Hungary, and he was incredibly conservative in a department that was decidedly not. And so he and I just bonded, but not so much from a conservative philosophy standpoint, from an experience standpoint. I really wanted to understand what it was like growing up in Hungary during World War II and then with the communists.
Right.
And he had that perspective. And so my sort of senior thesis was that political correctness is actually the new fascism. This is 30 years ago. And guess what? I was right then.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely right now.
Because that became wokeism, and that's become everything else that we're experiencing today. And it is a new form of fascism.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, coming out of Hungary, that's, because they had the Nazis and then the Soviets.
And the Soviets, they didn't catch a break.
Yeah. That's rough.
No, he was amazing. And he's still around, I guess. I was looking him up, and he's Professor Emeritus. So maybe this fall, as I'm venturing around the hallowed halls of the University of Southern California, I'll see if he's around.
Yeah. Awesome.
Because football season's coming.
Yeah, I know you'll be there. If you don't know,
well, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be here because I'm excited about ASU as well.
Yeah. So you remain a season ticket holder at USC.
I reluctantly, every year, I'm like, I only went to 3 games. Is this really worth it? I don't know. Because there was a time back in the early 2000s where I went to every game. And since then, I mean, life happens. You got football games on Saturday and kids stuff, and it's hard.
Right.
And so I try to pick at least 3 or 4 that I can go to, and then I either give the rest to my buddies or whatever else.
Yeah.
But I've been going now for almost 20 years.
That's amazing.
So, yeah, I've seen the ups, the downs,
You've
probation,
seen it all.
Lane Kiffin, Sark, drunk as a skunk on the sidelines.
And the demise of the Pac-10.
The demise of the Pac-12. And now we've got, we've got a coach that has a lot to learn. But he seems to be putting some good things around him finally.
There you go.
But this weekend I'm more interested in baseball.
Yeah, it's baseball season. Dodgers are doing well. Diamondbacks are above 500.
They are. Dodgers were slumping for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I got worried, and then now they seem to be back.
So it'll be fun homestand for the Diamondbacks hosting the Dodgers, and
that's always a good time.
Yeah, it'll be good to watch. I don't know.
You're overwhelmed right now.
I am overwhelmed. I'm still on that afterglow of the announcement of the Pope, and it's
been interesting to dive into his philosophy, to his approach to the gospel, approach to Catholic teachings and doctrines, and all that. And that will be a complete blather for the next several days.
There's so much for people to understand. And I'm sure
how aligned is he with Pope Francis versus John Paul versus Benedict on these issues. I was reading the latest edition of National Review, and I didn't understand really as a non-Catholic how big and how controversial this whole movement towards the Latin Mass in America is. Like, it's a big thing.
Yeah.
And it's a big thing for American Catholics
right.
who want that opportunity.
Yep.
And yet there's some people who are just so against it.
Right.
That it's a call back to, the oppressiveness of the church. And I'm like, if you have and it seems to be like traditional Catholics and new Catholics are very curious. And I love a good Catholic Mass. I'm not Catholic per se, but my mom's very Catholic and was married into a Catholic family years ago. And so I have a great deal of respect for the liturgy. I have a great deal of respect for the Mass. And I know my way around the Catholic Church pretty well. Mm-hmm. And it seems, but I've never been to a Latin Mass. And it seems to me, who cares?
Yeah,
that's
exactly where
go for the win.
Right.
If you're getting new people going to the Latin Mass and they're encountering Jesus in the beauty of the language and the Scripture, and they might not know anything that's being said, but they really love it. Take the win.
Yeah, I don't understand why it's controversial. I mean, well, it goes back to when they first took away the Latin Mass.
Well,
there
yeah.
were a lot of people
in the 60s, right? During what was it?
Vatican II.
Vatican II.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand. And my friend, my mentor, Dave Sitton, used to rail about this. Like, Vatican II was an apostasy, he would say. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
There's a lot of things that happened in Vatican II that
but there were a lot of good things. Like, everything became in English, and you could read the Bible, and then the church became much more approachable in terms of its interaction with the people who are going to church, which I think is great. And then, but then now some people here in America want to go to Latin Mass, and they're deemed by their government. That's the other big thing that's happened over the last 4 years is some sort of white nationalist terrorist people, which makes no sense.
Well, and
there's no evidence of that either.
Right. And it is, I mean, and that's when people say, well, I don't understand how Catholics can support Trump because he's so anti-immigrant, he's so anti-social justice. I mean, the things that are like from the gospel standpoint, kind of important. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that even though Biden, who was Catholic, his administration was targeting Catholics.
Well, they were targeting Catholics in the worst way.
Yeah.
And not standing up for the faith when people were attacking it. And so Catholic Vote has like a counter. I don't know if you've been on their website. Yeah. I mean, of course.
Of how many
churches have been like firebombed over the last 4 years. It's over 300.
Yeah.
Might be over 400 now. I haven't checked.
More Catholic churches were vandalized than synagogues.
Firebombed is a that's a
yeah.
I mean, that's not the right term, but have been vandalized.
More Catholic churches being vandalized than Jewish synagogues.
Yeah.
And neither are good. I mean, we're against all that. But the point is that when you have that happening in communities across the country, and you see that the administration's not doing anything to prevent it or to even look at it, they say nothing about it, then it's no wonder people abandoned the Democrats in the election and went with Trump, even though there's some differences in the way he approaches things versus where the church approaches things. And there's plenty of people who understand, look, I have my faith and I have what I believe and I have my politics. And they sometimes mix and they sometimes don't. But, it's not, every individual is nuanced.
Yes.
Right? I mean, I'd look at myself as this, longtime former Mormon, now a new Catholic, conservative Republican. I mean, I've got nuance all over the place.
Of course.
I mean, and every person does.
But I mean, listen, I just pulled up Catholic Vote, and what their count is since June 14th, since 2020, there have been over 500 attacks on U.S. Catholic churches since May 2020.
Wow. So in 5 years.
Yeah. Attacks on Catholic churches since the Supreme Court leak on Dobbs, 335. And attacks on Catholic churches just this year, 22. Hmm. And the Justice Department was nowhere over the last 4 years.
Right.
So hopefully Pam Bondi and Patel are gonna go after these folks.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the stuff that you could never understand. You could never understand Joe Biden's pro-abortion stance and his inability to stand up for people of faith.
Well, I mean, I understood the pro-abortion stance from the standpoint of the politics of the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
But the standing up for people of faith, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I mean, religious freedom is one of the fundamentals.
Yeah, we don't want
why we are a country.
And let's be clear, we don't want any churches being vandalized.
No.
Or synagogues or mosques, for that matter.
Exactly.
None of it.
It's called religious freedom. We should all be able to worship the way we want.
We can have differences. Fear. We can have political differences of ideas, difference of worldview. That's fine. But under no circumstance should any church, even a church that's professing, things that we don't agree with in terms of transgender or whatever
the case may be.
You can have your opinions about that, but they shouldn't be vandalized.
No.
Under any circumstance.
No position, no place for that. Because at the end of the day, we're a podcast and a nation built on faith, freedom, and free enterprise.
The founding principles of our great country. Nice segues, sir.
And congratulations to all my fellow Catholics.
Yeah.
It's kind of wild to say. We have a new pope.
Yeah. Ginny Clements. Congratulations, Mom.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And we'll be back.
I bet she knows him.
She might.
She probably does.
She knows. There's going to be a lot of people who know him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll find out who. We'll have him on.
All right. God bless.
All right. Thanks, folks.